Hey everyone, this is a homework help video for the 7.2 homework assignment. These are equations similar to your homework problems, and I hope that by going over some tricks with these examples, it'll help you guys to complete your homework. First up, when I look inside of the parentheses, I see that my multiplier is a fraction that is between 0 and 1, and because of that, I know it's going to represent decay. And so that means that as it moves this way, it's going to divide by 4. And as it moves that way, it's going to multiply by 4. So the first thing I do is I identify the y-intercept. Well, the y-intercept is the number that is written out front here. And since I don't see a number, I know that that number is 1 times. So that my y-intercept is at 1. And I'm going to multiply by 4 as I go to the left. So 1 times 4 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16, and that's as far as I can go that way. And if I'm dividing by 4 in the other direction, I would get a fourth, and then I would get 1/16, and I don't think I can go further than that. And then I connect, and make sure to not cross that x-axis, because I don't ever cross that x-axis. So there you have it. On your homework, it does say to provide a table of values for your work. I think I've written down a lot of sufficient work here, but I do want to hold to what I said. And so you would simply, on the back end, add your table of values. And so I'm just looking at what I graphed. And 1/4, and 2/16, 1/16. So there you have it. On the next one, I do see a negative value, and I can tell by the graph that they provided that my graph must be doing this. And so it's going to look a lot better than that. The number out front is the y-intercept, and that negative does tell us it's been reflected over the x-axis. Okay, so that is my y-intercept, though, the number out front. So my y-intercept is -5, and my multiplier is 2. So that means every time I have an output, I'm going to multiply it by 2. So my y-intercept here at -5 is going to be times 2, which would put us at -10, times 2 would put us at -120. So going in this direction, I'm times 2. Going in this direction, I'm divided by 2. So when I cut -5 in half, I have -2.5. When I cut -2.5 in half, I have -1.25. And then if I cut that in half, I have about 6.635, and then I continue to get closer and closer to that x-axis, but I never touch it. Remember, that's called a horizontal asymptote. And then there's my graph. And once again, you guys can make the table of values once you have plotted all those points. On the next one, once again, I see a number between 0 and 1, meaning we are going to be decreasing. Remember, the reciprocal of a number simply reflects it across that y-axis. So if something were growing and it got reflected across the y-axis, it is now decreasing, and it represents decay. So if I want to graph this, I start with that y-intercept at 2. And going this way, I'm going to be dividing by 3, which means going that way, I would be multiplying by 3. So 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18, and that's as far as I can go that way. 2 divided by 3 is 0.67, and then I would cut that distance in a third, and I would just keep getting closer and closer to the y-axis, the x-axis that I would never cross over. And there is my graph. Okay, backside. Can I write an equation given the graph? Absolutely. The first thing I'll identify is that y-intercept. So if that y-intercept is 1, it'll just be of this form. We don't have to worry about writing in that a, because a is 1. So I need to figure out my multiplier. Well, if this is a 1 and this is a 4, I believe I've been multiplied by 4. So my multiplier is 4. And that's it. It is increasing. So we definitely know that we are good to go. On the next graph, I find that y-intercept. It is 1 again, so it will not have to have an a written in there. I simply need to figure out that multiplier. I am decreasing, and I've been reflected across that y-axis. So I have two options here. Either I can make my exponent negative, or I can use the reciprocal of whatever I'm multiplying by. So I look here, and if I'm at 1 and then here I'm at 2, it appears I have a multiplier of 2, and I will sum at 4, that's times 2, so 4 times 2 is 8. So we definitely have a multiplier of 2, and the reciprocal of 2 is 1/2, because we are actually decreasing, we're dividing by 2 as we move to the right. Remember the or, we could say that our multiplier is 2, but we're reflecting ourselves across that y-axis by making that exponent negative x. Remember, these two are the same. Yay! All right, next we have a y-intercept at 4, so we will finally be of this form. So my y-intercept is 4. Now I need to figure out what my multiplier is. I look up, and the next place that it crosses at, the next whole number ordered pair I have is 8. So to go from 4 to 8, I have to multiply by 2. And I'm done. And then the very last problem, I have decay. It looks like I'm crossing at 3. And my multiplier, as I move back this way, just kind of going backwards and looking, because I know it's been reflected, I am at 6, so to go from 3 to 6, I have to multiply by 2. And hopefully there's a point up here at 12, and there is, which means 2 is definitely our multiplier. But since we have decay, I take its reciprocal, and I'm cutting my values in half or dividing by 2 as I move to the right. Now I could also keep it as a 2, but make that a negative exponent, and those two mean the exact same thing. And that is how you write equations given graphs, and I hope this video has helped. Thanks, guys.